From my perspective, it's not really about how good you are at just buying ads or Facebook ads or Google ads, right? If you really want to scale a service-based business, it becomes people management. That's really what it comes down to. Like,
Yeah.
early stages of a service business, you as the owner are 100% focused on running the service, right? Whatever it is, you're likely focused on running ads in my case. And then you transfer a little bit of that over to an assistant. And then you transfer that over to someone who's full-time. And then you start acquiring clients and bring new people in. And what you eventually get to is just how can you give as much knowledge as possible to your entire team and then allow that team to operate and make sure everyone's happy, right? They're getting paid enough. They're getting paid a lot, right? They're not leaving and bouncing from one job to the next. There's 100 ways that you need to incentivize the team. And that's still something I'm absolutely learning as much as I possibly can. But I've grown to realize that scale on service is not just scale in terms of getting better results or scaling your business. It's scaling people. And that's much more challenging than scaling an e-commerce business from my perspective.
Hello, Sam.
Hey, John. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for coming. To be honest, if I knew that you'll be in Greece 6 months ago, I would have that episode in our studio because we have a studio in Greece. But I didn't know. So yeah, we're going to do it through Riverside. You in Kentucky, me in Athens.
Next time I'll be there with your beautiful waters, 75-degree weather. You can count me in anytime.
Yeah. Now it's raining, but most of the time it's good, yeah. Okay, so for the people that they don't know you, can you introduce a little bit yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So, real quick background on myself. A, my name is Sam. B, I run the Moonlighters. We're a performance marketing agency. And C, my background is actually in all performance marketing as well. So I didn't just make an agency to make an agency. I started my career at a company called VaynerMedia, which a lot of people are familiar with, which is Gary Vee's agency. And then moved over from VaynerMedia to BarkBox, where I ran paid growth for both Facebook ads and Google ads on the run when the company was going public. So at the time, the brand was, I believe, about 60 or $70 million. When I left, they were valued at peak at $2.5 billion. Now, that's a massive, insane story overall. But the long story short is we grew a lot. Timing was right. I was in the right place at the right time for a lot of things. And took the learnings from VaynerMedia, took the learnings from BarkBox, packaged them up into what today is the Moonlighters, where we work with e-commerce businesses primarily. And I talk a lot, I yap a lot on the internet about all things e-com, and I think that's probably why I'm here.
Yeah, this is how I met you. I met actually a lot of videos from you talking about e-commerce and scaling ads basically. So yeah, that's for you yapping. That's why we're here. You're really good at that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so there are a lot of questions that I want to ask, but I want to hop into the most interesting to me at this moment, which is like the name Moonlighters. Like it's an unusual name for a performance marketing agency. So please tell me about the name.
Yeah, so the Moonlighters was not the original name. Our original name is a really crappy LLC name. And basically what happened was when I started at VaynerMedia, the very, very first client I had was actually a former VaynerMedia client. And they were just too small to work with Vayner, or Gary Vee specifically. So I asked Gary, actually. It was one of the few times when I had the opportunity to really put myself out there. And I asked him and I said, hey, can I run this? Can I just give this a go? And he was like, dude, hell yeah, of course you could run this. So ran the very first client and started working my way up, grabbed about 4 or 5 clients on the side. It was a little side hustle I was doing at the time. And literally I would do it from the moment I got home, which was around 6 or 7 p.m. at the time, until the late hours of the night based on what was necessary for these 4 or 5 brands. And one day someone I worked with was like, you should meet Sam. He moonlights. And I never even heard of the term, but basically moonlighting is a term that's from way back when you would work a second job before everyone called it a side hustle. So kind of just started as like a good like little catchy name of like, oh yeah, I'm moonlighting. And then when I finally sat down and started to think about what's a real good name in this industry that's not another very stereotypical name, Moonlighters and the Moonlighters just felt right, and the domain was available. So I took the splurge, and the rest is kind of history now.
Yeah, okay, okay, that's a really good story.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and also I didn't knew the phrase moonlight. It's not something that I actually knew.
yeah.
That
News to me as well. Like
yeah,
someone
yeah.
told me about it.
Okay, okay. And great. So when you're working in VaynerMedia, like because I'm not really familiar in what they do actually, because they're
Hmm.
a really big business, a really big agency. So I I want to know like it has a lot of clients in ecom. Like how did you end up in ecommerce specifically?
Yeah, so I'll start with the VaynerMedia side of things, and then I'll go on to e-commerce specifically. So VaynerMedia is VaynerX. It's this huge conglomerate of all of the little departments that compose the Vayner umbrella, basically. And basically, the way that I was first introduced to it was like most people was through Gary, right? He runs a media agency. Let's see if I can apply. And at the time, well, I'll try not to merge these stories too much, but VaynerMedia basically operates in a way where it has different divisions. So they run hundreds of accounts, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of accounts across all different verticals. We're talking everything from e-commerce to the biggest of the big, like Chase, Mondelez, MSG, Nike, like the largest of the large. And they do different services for all of those, everything from creative to media management to literally making Super Bowl commercials, right? All of it under the same umbrella. And when I applied to VaynerMedia, I applied specifically to the e-commerce team. So at the time, they were starting a new e-commerce venture at VaynerMedia. This was quite a ways back, and there was only a few people on the team at the time. So I think I was number four on the team. I could be a little off on that, but number four or so on the team. They were just starting out, and it was their first round of e-commerce brands. And call it sheer luck or talent, whatever you want to call it. But the very first client I worked with was a brand called Liquid IV, which is now a multi-$100 million e-commerce business in the States. Actually, kind of worldwide at this point. You can basically get a Liquid IV anywhere. They're a category breaker. And Gary invested in them. And this was his way to take these small bet investments and manage them in house, right? So it was this combination that was going on. I don't know all the details about the investment side and how that kind of merged, but that's where I got started in ecom on a professional level. Prior to that, I was doing e-commerce in my dorm room in college. So I heard about Shopify. I got the ads just like everybody else. I didn't know how to run Facebook ads. I didn't know how to run Google ads. And YouTube.com and a lot of tutorials and a lot of paying people to learn. I'm a big fan of paying for mentorship. One foot in front of the other, basically figured out how to run ads. And I think what was really cool from my experience was I did it with my own cash, right? So I started a store. It was a hat store at the time. I was just drop shipping, nothing fancy, but it allowed me to really understand, man, if I put $100 in, what am I actually getting out in profit? And for me, at the time, Facebook was super easy. It was much less competitive, but still, my money in made sure my money was coming out. And this is coming from a legitimately broke college student. So,
Yeah.
very, very different. And then that got me into VaynerMedia.
Okay, okay, that's a cool story as well. And one key thing that I heard a lot of friends, a lot of people in the industry tell me is service-based businesses like agencies, you cannot actually scale a lot. You cannot scale, and you see people like Vaynerchuk, what has he has created, and you say, okay, it is not a matter of like if the business model is actually scalable, is how skilled you actually are to scale this business model.
Yeah. From my perspective, it's not really about how good you are at just buying ads or Facebook ads or Google ads, right? If you really want to scale a service-based business, it becomes people management. That's really what it comes down to. Like
Yeah.
early stages of a service business, you as the owner are 100% focused on running the service, right? Whatever it is, you're likely focused on running ads in my case. And then you transfer a little bit of that over to an assistant, and then you transfer someone that over to someone who's full time, and then you start acquiring clients and bring new people in. And what you eventually get to is just how can you give as much knowledge as possible to your entire team, and then allow that team to operate and make sure everyone's happy, right? They're getting paid enough. They're getting paid a lot, right? They're not leaving and bouncing from one job to the next. There's 100 ways that you need to incentivize the team, and that's still something I'm absolutely learning as much as I possibly can. Um, but I've grown to realize that scale on service is not just scale in terms of getting better results or scaling your business. It's scaling people, and that's much more challenging than scaling an e-commerce business from my perspective.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I definitely get that. So, at what point you are at the moment? Like, do you trying to scale people? Like, how do you structure your agency? How many people, first of all, how many people do you actually have in
Yeah.
Moonlighters?
Yeah, so we're at the stage right now where we're just trying to continue to scale people. So we've built out the foundation pretty well over the last couple of years. Everyone on the team is really established, super good. And the criteria that we use for everyone that we hire is we always hire people who have 7+ years experience in Facebook ads and Google ads. So we don't really mess around with like anyone junior level, which is I think very different than a lot of agencies in the way that they operate because I know you run an agency as well, and the way that not necessarily you, but a lot of people operate are they have account executives at the top and then media buyers underneath, and then the media buyers speak to the account executives and vice versa. We've just cut out the media buyer. So the account executive on our side, we hire for what we call a growth director because they're fully responsible for the account's full scope. Very, very different in terms of the day to day execution. Overall, it means a lot more strategy and consulting and a lot less like touch that little button to try to make an impact. So from my end, the stage we're at right now, all we really are trying to do is make sure we bring on the best talent possible. Quite frankly, we have a good, flow of leads that come in. We have a lot of people that apply, thankfully. It's just we're really, really, really strict about making sure that everyone that comes in our door is A plus 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 because ultimately you hear it out there all the time, right? You see these agencies who catch a little bit of buzz and they have like 9% churn rates, right? They lose 9% of their clients every single month. And thankfully, I think mostly due to the way that we're operating in terms of hiring, we're losing like 2%. So from my perspective, we're doing 4 times better than the industry average. And that's a measure that I want to keep as long as possible. That makes sense?
Yeah, yeah, it definitely does. Definitely does. Yeah, I understand like how you structure it. In my
Yeah.
case, like what we do is I am the basically the media buyer. So I
Hmm.
communicate with the client, and I have one creative director, one graphic designer, and someone else that's going to help me with the setup of the ads. But basically, I talk to the people. I'm not at that level where I've actually scaled. I don't know if I really want to actually do that, like to scale a team and
Yeah.
create like a team below me. It's not something that I really like. I prefer to run the ads and do podcasts. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's interesting because you can if you wanna like, and I have this conversation like because you see when you start a business, you think, okay, you have a skill running ads. You can do so many things. Like you can go and open an e-commerce brand, or you can create an agency, you can create digital products. So yeah, there are a ton of things, and people tend to say a lot that okay, e-commerce brands are scalable. You should do it. Like you can scale to the moon. You can, but you can do this as well with service based. Like if you scale the team, you can definitely do that.
Absolutely. I don't think there's a, and maybe you feel different, but I just don't think there's much. I've yet to see a kind of business that can stop at like under $10 million, right? Like almost every single niche, you can get to $10 million profit in. Whether it's you're selling napkins, I'm just looking around me, you're selling napkins, pens, headphones, mugs, laptop cases, wires, literally just naming products around me. They're all multi $10 million businesses, whether they're e-commerce or service based. From my perspective, as long as you just put your head down and focus on that one thing, make your product as good as possible, make your ads as strong as possible, make your marketing creative as strong as possible, you're like absolutely gonna win, right? Like maybe I just see it too much, but I see these founders out there sometimes that we work with that get really, really obsessed with like the next shiny object, right? They'll be like, all right, that sounds like it's fun to do. Let's try
Yeah.
this. Let's add this. Let's add. And if you just honed in on the one thing that you're actually good at, you'll probably get two, three, four times the results than you're getting right now. And I think, yeah, I totally agree with you, right? Like service-based business, e-com, they're all in play. They're all in play. People are making hundreds of millions of dollars collectively in each of these categories, and there's still room for growth.
Yeah. Why haven't you actually started an e-com brand, or you have after the hats?
Same reason I just said, right? Like totally 100% locked into building this, right? If I just spent 20% of my focus pushing to some e-commerce brand, the amount, think of it as a leverage game, right? I have massive amounts of leverage right now in the agency space. I have a multiplier. For every dollar I put in, I know I can get X dollars out in the agency space right now. For me to start on the e-commerce side, now I need to focus a whole load of energy to get a significantly less leverage result. And that doesn't mean that e-commerce is worse, but for me right now, May 13th, 2025, e-commerce is worse for me to run. Because I would need to not only just, it's not like I just drop shipping products, right? I'm talking like build a real brand, right? That takes so much effort. And I know that any client we work with, any client you work with, any real legit business laughs at the people that are trying to just drop ship some item and throw their logo on it. Because so what goes into the branding side, market curation, listening to the reviews, not just what's going on your website, but like the real stuff, inventory management and such, is so time consuming. And that's the actual hard part of running the business, the financial side of thing. And all of those look very different than what actually is going on the agency side. And I just want to make sure my focus is 100% on the agency side, not just so I could like make more money, but also because I'm responsible for a team of people, right? There's a collective of around 20 people who are completely under my wing here and believing me on this journey. So I think it's just critical that all my focus goes there.
Yeah, completely agree, and it's something that I have experienced as well because I still have an e-commerce brand that I have sold. I have sold part, so I'm not actually in the day to day, but
Smart.
the e-commerce brand that actually scaled, it is still is a phone case brand that we're actually print phone cases and we sell them online, and we have like our own printers, like we have a manufacturing facility that we're creating that we're creating the phone cases and all other accessories, and it's a mess. It's much more difficult than what I'm doing right now. I don't have a huge
Yep.
amount of people behind me, so I'm not in the managing people area. So I don't know if I scale, if I want to scale even, but which business model is more difficult, but at the stage that I am right now, I can definitely say I'm certain that this is easier right now for me from what I
Hmm.
was doing in the past.
And when you're thinking about it, right, just from what you're in right now, you're kind of in between two things, and you're also in this stage of your business. It seems like right now, where you're like at this really nice spot. I'm sure your profit is great, right? Things are smooth from that side. Um, do you like? Is the I'm just curious. Is the long term goal to be like, hey, let's have 100 clients instead of 20 something, and let's keep taking on business, or is it close the doors, be exclusive, have a good lifestyle with 15, 20 clients?
Yeah, my goal for the next year is to have like 20 clients and serve them.
Hmm.
I don't know what I'm going to do after that. If
Hmm.
like I get, because I'm a product guy, I really like products, so maybe I just hop into another e-commerce brand. I don't know, or I would want to actually scale the service base, but I'm not that sure. I'm not sure. I definitely like podcasting because I also have like a really big podcasting Greek, which is something that I really like. So this is the side that I prefer doing, to be honest with you. But yeah,
Yeah, cool.
it's for me, it's a different, like it's what you prefer basically to do, I mean, in the day to day.
Yeah, for sure. Totally understand.
I want to know what type of clients do you actually serve? Like, for example, if someone comes to you and has like spend of like 10K per month, would you be able to serve them, or you serve like an amount of client that is doing like 200K plus?
Yeah. So we work with a variety of clients right now. Our core client is $1 to $10 million in annual revenue, or pacing to that $1 to $10 million in annual revenue. Now, the reason I roll with revenue there and not just ad spend is because it's typically really hard to get to that revenue, either A, without ad spend, or if you're not doing it with ad spend, with something that's just off for the races and it's going to explode when you add ad spend on top of that. So in our case, in terms of minimum ad spend, we're looking for 10K bare minimum. Most of the clients that we work with are in the 50K plus range, and we have a handful of clients that are, 2, 3, 400K plus. But like just statistically speaking, that is a hard group of clients to actually acquire because there's so few of them. So yeah, we run across the board, and our service is basically essentially the same for all of those clients, except for the $300,000 per month ad spend legitimately just requires way more time, as I'm sure you
Yeah.
know as well, versus someone who's spending $20,000 a month. There's not as many changes you could physically make that are actually the right things to do.
Yeah, yeah, completely understand. And
Hmm.
another key important aspect that I face, the problem that I face with my clients, and I want to hear your thoughts around that, is with
Yeah.
creatives, because
Mm.
especially with creatives, it's very difficult to produce high quality creatives, and to be honest with you, I prefer giving direction, creative direction, instead
Hmm.
of doing the creatives. For some clients, we actually do some creatives, but it's not the optimal. And to be honest with you, I think that the clients are better at selling the products. You provide that as a service, and if yes, like how do you actually manage it?
Yeah, we do not provide creative
Okay.
directly at this moment. We've tried. It's not something that's like, okay, simply put, client creative outperforms creative made
Yeah.
by an agency in most cases. I think generally speaking, it's a red flag to me if a client comes to us and say, we don't have the capability to create creative, period, end of story. That's a red flag. If you're running a business that's in e-commerce, like creative is a huge play. Because if you can't create ad creative in-house, that means you're not running anything on social, right? That means you have no social presence whatsoever, which is like the key unlock these days to creating another 10 or 20% growth in your business, that actually adds fuel to the fire. So I tend to lean on the side of the client should do the creative for them. We give very, very specific direction on our side. The only thing that we are rolling out in terms of creative that we do on our end is AI creative, which is generally just creative for static images that need refreshes. So if they have a static ad that's working super well, we'll flip it into ChatGPT with a set of prompts that we found to work super well right now. Now, that's probably going to get 10 times better in 2-3 months from now, but so far it is pretty solid. We'll flip in, very basic changes, different backgrounds, different additions, text overlays and such, but we're not going to the extreme of like, we're going to actually do the photo shoot for a client.
Yeah, yeah. I have seen some people do that, and to be honest with you, I honestly agree that the client knows how to sell the products better. So it's a red flag for someone to outsource everything to an agency. It's
Yeah,
something that it's not sustainable. Like you
for sure.
need to know how to sell your products. And to the people that I have actually given directions and they have the team to produce them, I see much better results overall. So I tend to think that that is the best option for an e-commerce brand. They should create their own creatives. They should have an idea. Because it's an e-commerce brand, like it is 80% marketing. You have to be a marketer as well. You cannot outsource everything.
I totally agree. I told you you need to be telling people what is special about your product, and an agency is not going to pull that out of you, right? Like especially as the owner of a brand. Like if you're the owner of a brand, you create the tent poles, you create the vision, you create the mission of the brand. That needs to all come out in the content. And if you're just kind of treating it in a like, yeah, they'll figure it out kind of way, you're really not going to get what you want.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. And what is the from the clients that you actually manage for the e-commerce brands that you have actually seen, because you have seen a lot of e-commerce brands, there are a lot of successful e-commerce brands. So
Yeah.
what do you think is the biggest hurdle, the biggest problem that they face? And you come and you advise them to solve it. Like, what is the biggest problem?
So there's obviously 100 that come to mind. Something that is the most common issue, I would say, is they don't actually understand the financial side of things well enough. And what I mostly mean by that, and this is like if anyone's listening to this and they're trying to take one thing away, I would personally think this is the best piece for an e-commerce owner. You need to know what your targets need to be inside and out. And there's a very big difference between need and want, right? Because I have, and I know you've heard the same thing as someone who's buying media. You have heard people say, yeah, I want a 4x return on ad spend. And you go, why? And they say, I got it in 2018. And you're like, excellent. I was 15 years old then. Not actually, but you
Yeah.
could they're just like, okay, and that was the last time the Yankees won the World Series too. So it's just like people have this dissociation between what's needed and what's wanted, specifically in this field, because they think that Facebook or Google or these platforms is the same as they once were. Now, they're still the best media buying platforms ever, period, but they're different. They're growth tools now. They used to be profit tools. They're very different. Like the arbitrage has caught up, right? It's now equally competitive as other places to buy media. So I think that clients are just like brands in general, e-commerce owners in general need to know their goals inside and out. It's going to allow you to grow the fastest. So I think that's one. And I think second is stop looking at your blended metrics. Like brand will come to us and be driving a 5x return on Facebook. And we're like, wow, this looks great on the outside. And they work with us for a month and they say, and this is a really bad example, I'm just going to like throw this out there. They work with us for a month and they say, wow, our return on ad spend dropped from 5 to 4. Now, most people go, all right, let's can these guys. Moonlighters stink. They have no idea what they're doing. But if you actually just take a one quick step down into your metrics and you look at your audience segmentation, you'll notice that we probably shifted the spend from 80% existing and engaged customers to now 80% new customers. So if you look at your Shopify side of things, or whatever e-commerce platform you're managing everything on, you'll notice really quickly that you've acquired X number incremental new customers, right? And that's how you drive a business forward. So we're not concerned, of course, like, do we want profit coming into the businesses? Yes. But I'm far less concerned about driving high return on ad spend for the sake of just like cranking up ROAS numbers. And I'm much, much more concerned with how do we acquire as many new customers as possible for the business and then let them monetize those customers over time, over long periods of time. And when people understand their goals properly, they know where they can break even, they know their lifetime value, their 1 year value, their profit per customer. It doesn't just go with revenue, but like profit, margins, etc. You put yourself at such an advantage because you can completely change how fast you can grow. I'll give you one example. I think you could probably tell it's a passionate point for me. One example of this is we work with a brand. I won't disclose them, but we work with a brand right now that needs to hit a 1.8 return on ad spend to break even. So 1.8 and they're good. That includes all of their costs. That's their cost of goods, their shipping, their payment processing, how much they pay their team on a percentage basis, all in 1.8. Literally, all we do for them, we spend as much money as possible into a 1.81. It's all they care about. Smash new customers at a 1.81. So this business was previously spending $30,000 to $40,000 per month, not talking holidays, just regular 10 months of the year, to now spending 200 plus per month, 180 to 250 per month, call it, in that range. Because they were previously focused at a ridiculous like 2.5 return on ad spend. Their business was growing like 30% year over year. The business has quadrupled over this short period of time. Again, like 8-9 month period of time. Not because they did something different, they changed their product, they fixed their landing pages, they fixed their conversion rate, because they understood their goals, right? They understood if I go 1.8, I'm breaking even, I'm going to acquire so many customers. And now they're starting to see, because their average repeat rate is about 3 months, they're starting to see customers come back a second time. They're now, it's like this massive hockey stick, as I should call it, of growth, because they're figuring out actually how to acquire customers based on their financials, not just what feels good and what their friend told them they're getting on a return on ad spend.
Yeah, yeah. I couldn't agree more, to be honest with you. It's something that I see so many times. People saw me at accounts, like other media buyers friends that I have. Saw me at accounts, yeah, look, I have 10 ROAS in this business. Like 10 ROAS, it's a mismanagement of what you do. You actually don't scale the business as well as you should do, and you just
Yeah.
laid there like with 8, 6, 5 ROAS, and the break-even ROAS is 1.5. What are you doing? Like they want you to scale their business to make more revenue. Like, and most people don't understand that. They just focus on the ROAS, because this is what you actually were focusing on in 2015, which is not the case anymore.
Exactly, right? And like in 20 whatever year you want to insert, 2015, 2018, like the arbitrage on Facebook ads specifically was off the chain. I mean, like, absolutely
Yeah.
ridiculous. The
I
ar-
wish I knew what I was doing back then.
Yeah, me too. And look, the people made hundreds of millions of dollars in their e-commerce businesses if they knew what they were doing. But think about it like this too. The consumer demand wasn't as high. Conversion rates weren't as high. There was different factors in play 10 plus years ago that still made it harder, even
Yeah.
though your CPMs and your CPCs were so low, there were still different factors. So the
You couldn't
market was
scale.
really,
This is something that I have noticed. Like back in the day, at least like for another brand that I was communicating back then, in Greece specifically,
Mhm.
and you couldn't scale. It wasn't
Yeah.
like the demand wasn't there.
Yeah, you would actually stop spending, like
Yeah,
especially in smaller countries.
yeah, for
It
sure.
just didn't exist. I've always had the advantage of the U.S., but even then, like you still wouldn't get over the hump of like you could. I mean, like when I in some past work, I won't name names, but we're spending $100,000 a day, right? That wasn't possible as much in 2015, 2016,
Yeah.
for
Yeah, for
sure.
sure. Okay, okay, that's great. Any last thoughts that you want to share with the world before closing?
I appreciate, first off, you having me here, and I always like speaking to a fellow media buyer. No, look, I think like for everyone watching, if you're on the ecom side, or if you're a brand owner, if you're in that position right now where you're trying to scale your ads, really focus on the financials. It's
And the creatives.
absolutely. And well, yeah, yeah. That was
And
the
the
next
cre-
piece. Like, focus on the
okay.
financials, and then tie it into your own creatives, right?
Yeah.
Like build what you think is best. And I think another point that we hit here that's just so good is like, don't create that second business. like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
lock in to what you're doing, and you're gonna see outsized results. Focus on the one thing, like get creatives all out for that thing, and then know your financials so you can never go broke. And a book I always recommend to people is Profit First. It's a book I've modeled my own business after. And then basically all the Hormozy books, all the Alex Hormozy books are incredible for building either service based or ecom based as well. And yeah, man, I again just really appreciate the time here. Looking forward to linking up in Greece if I'm ever over there again.
Yeah, yeah. It was a great conversation. Thank you very much for coming. And yeah, so we can close now, and that's the pod.